Hi, I'm Tessa, and this is a broody hen, and welcome to Little Lady Homestead. So I am taking my life into my own hands, holding this hen, because she is upset with me for being held. If you don't know what a broody hen is, it is a chicken who has a very strong desire to hatch chicks, and they will sit on the nest or on a clutch of eggs for at least 3 weeks, which is the time it takes for eggs to hatch, and they barely leave the nest. They will protect it fiercely, and that's why she was kind of growling at me. They puff up their feathers and they growl and they will peck you. And so if you have a broody hen who is supposed to be laying eggs, that is usually a problem because she's not laying eggs herself, but she will protect the eggs that the other chickens lay. And so it could be hard to collect eggs from your nesting boxes. Also, she's not producing for that time. So it can be a problem, but Broody here, and her name is Broody because she is always broody. She is a buff Orpington, and they are renowned for getting broody, which, like I said, can be a bad thing, but for me, it's actually a great thing. I have about 25 chickens, and thankfully she's the only one who consistently gets broody time after time after time every year. But I have used that to my advantage, and I let her incubate and take care of some chicks for me. I can't believe it. Broody hatched some of the chicks. There are 2 that have hatched. She is busy taking care of them. Also, there is another one hatching right now. Look at that. Hey, little baby. Just see the little beak and nose right in there. But Broody is doing a good job taking care of the little babies. And she came out to eat so that they could learn where the food and water is. But for now, oh, she's such a good mama. You're a good mama, Broody. She's so good. It was funny. I came out into the garage this morning and I heard her going, oh. She was doing the mother duck, or mother hen cluck. And I just knew, there were chicks in there. So I saw only one this morning, but now I just came out and saw that there are 2. Good girl, Broody, but you have to get back on your nest. So I have one of her little babies here, but it is very likely not actually her baby. It is a little barnyard mix baby from our well summer rooster and one of our hens. I'm not sure which one. This one looks exactly like a well summer chick, so I can't really tell who the mama is. I just collected, I believe I collected 12 eggs that were fresh when she started getting broody, and then I had another chicken go broody, and so I collected I think 7 more, but then the second chicken stopped being broody after like 2 days, and then Broody adopted her clutch of eggs, so she went from the clutch of 12 eggs to the clutch of 7 eggs, and I believe 4 of them were really dark colored shells, and so I couldn't tell if they were fertile or not. I ended up candling them, I think, at 7 days and 14 days, and I got rid of 2 of them that for sure weren't fertilized, but I left the 2 dark brown eggs that I couldn't tell if they were fertilized or not. And then once 3 of them hatched, I waited another day and she abandoned the nest with the extra 2 eggs in there. So I think Mama knows best that they weren't going to hatch, and they were probably never fertilized to begin with. So We do have 3 little new chicks now. Like I said, this one looks like a little well summer. There's another one that is a little bit darker brown but has the same markings, and then one that's definitely from a buff hen because it looks like a little buff. So I'm excited to see what they'll look like as they grow up. So I already talked about a few of the drawbacks that come with having a broody hen. They make it really hard for you to get eggs from the chicken coop, and also they won't lay eggs for you during the time that they're broody. The biggest drawback that I've seen with my broody hens is it's actually pretty dangerous for their health. She cares about her chicks and her eggs way more than she cares about herself. And Broody here, I was just holding her and I could feel how much weight she's lost. Now with her, what I usually do for broody hens, especially her, even if I don't have eggs for her to sit on, I will put her in her own separate pen, which this is a brooder box that I built for raising chicks. But since I had the space available, I put her in this brooder box. That way she didn't have any competition for food and water, and it could be right next to her. So before the chicks hatched, I had her nesting box and then the food and water right next to her, with the hopes that she wouldn't get too dehydrated or too malnourished. And even with those efforts, she probably lost at least 1/3 of her body weight. My mother-in-law also has a buff who gets broody, and she sits on the nest so long that her legs get very wobbly, and so she'll take her out of the nesting box at least once a day and make her walk around. So it's not great for their health, and even though they're not laying eggs for that time, it takes a while for them to recover before they'll start laying eggs again. So I think one time Broody, I could tell it maybe took 3 weeks, another 3 weeks to a month for her to get her condition back before she could lay eggs again. So there are those benefits if you want to have your chicken incubate eggs and raise chicks. I think that's the most amazing thing. That's what Broody is doing right now. She is one of the best moms. This is the first time that I've had her incubate any eggs because we just got a rooster in the summer of last year. So now most of our eggs are fertilized, and before this we didn't have any fertilized eggs. But what I did do last summer is I gave her some newborn chicks that I got from the store, and she accepted those instantly and she raised them and did a great job. So I already knew that she was an excellent mother, and I had high hopes that she would have a good hatch rate. Now I think that she did hatch 3 out of the 5. I am pretty sure that the other 2 weren't actually fertilized because, again, we only have 1 rooster for 25 hens. So I think that she did an excellent job with them. And next time I'll probably try to get a bigger clutch of eggs together. That way we can have more hatch at one time. But this is just for me to help replace my flock if I have any losses, or as they get older, I'll keep hens that are in peak production and I'm getting eggs out of them very consistently. I was really excited to use her to help incubate some eggs because typically having a hen incubate eggs, you get a very good success rate, usually at least 90%, and I did not have anywhere near that success rate when I incubated them in an incubator. And I didn't have the most sophisticated incubator, but still I think it can range between 50 and 70%, and with a hen it's more like 90, sometimes even 100%. So I'm happy to have her. I like that she gets broody, but considering the drawbacks, not everybody will want a broody hen. So you can see she's all puffed up. She looks like a dinosaur. I'm going to take my life into my own hands again and try to grab a chick, which you can see she's all puffed up. So here's the little buff looking chick. I'm excited to see what she'll look like because she has some, I think it's a female, we'll see. And I don't think she'll be completely buff like Broody. I think she might have some markings, which I think will be very cute. Now, one thing to point out though, if you aren't having your broody hen incubate eggs and you just want to have her accept newborn chicks that you got from the store, you do want to make sure that you get them when they're just a couple days old, because if they are 2 or 3 weeks old, they won't have the instinct to go underneath a mother hen. You want them to be pretty newborn babies. I did try that one time with Broody. Actually, I had chicks that were about a week old, and they were starting to not have that instinct of going under a mother hen. And so she would accept them, but the babies wouldn't accept her. And so what I did to introduce those babies to her is at night when she was on the nest, I put the babies underneath her and then just took the eggs away. And then by the morning, she was already helping them. And also, I always do put some chick starter food and water right next to the nest. That way, she feels comfortable in her area. Typically, the other chickens in the coop would come and eat the chick starter, and I didn't want that competition. So I usually do seclude her in a separate area of the coop, or now I have this brooder box. I'll likely have her raise her chicks in here. That way they have their own space and they don't have the competition. Oh, you know what? Let me. So here's the last little chick. And this one, again, has those well summer markings, but it's more of a dark brown and gray color, whereas the first one is more of a brownish red color. So again, I'm excited since they're a mix. I don't know exactly what they'll look like, but I'm excited to see them grow up. So what if you have a broody hen and you don't want to have a broody hen, whether it's because you don't want to have the decline in egg production, or it's just horrible trying to go into the coop and get the eggs from her, because they do bite hard. She has made me bleed quite a few times trying to get around her. I try not to bother her as much as possible, but I think from now on, whenever she's broody, I'm just going to throw her straight in here. So that leads me to, what do you do to break a hen from being broody? And what I would do is I would make sure that you never let a clutch of eggs gather. And so you have to be really diligent about taking the eggs away from the nesting boxes and not letting them pile up. Because a hen who sees a pile of eggs, who has the tendency of being broody, will hop right on there and it'll be hard to get her off. So don't let the eggs pile up. Also, if that doesn't help, she's not sitting on any eggs, you can separate her, put her in broody hen jail, and that's what I've done in the past, mostly for her health. Because I want to make sure that she is not going to stop eating. And I actually had a chicken die of heat exhaustion one point because she was broody and she would not leave the nest, and it was the hottest day of the year and we lost her. And so I like to play it really safe when it comes to broody hens. So I throw them in a chicken jail. And so if you don't have a big brooder like this, I always used to use a small wire dog crate, and I've used that thing so many times. So I use that for broody hens. I also use that for any injured animals or injured chickens. If they need to be separated from the flock until they heal, I will put them in that wire dog crate in the garage typically, so I can keep a close eye on them. And then usually within a few days of not having any eggs to sit on, they'll stop being broody. And you'll be able to tell when they stop being broody, because when they are broody, anytime you walk by them, they puff up and they start to growl at you, and they really do sound like little dinosaurs. So when they stop doing that and they're getting up to scratch around and eat their food regularly, then you know that she can go back in with the other chickens. So I assume if you're watching this video, it's because you have a hen that is already broody and you're looking for advice on how to break that broodiness. But I have heard of actually instances where people try to induce broodiness. And I have never done this before, but I heard some advice from other people who wanted the hen to raise them. To induce broodiness, you can get a big clutch of eggs, and usually a hen who has the tendency to be broody will see that big clutch, that big mound of eggs, and say, oh my goodness, I have to sit on all of these. So if you are having a hen incubate eggs, you want to make sure that they are fresh eggs that were kept at room temperature, and they should not be washed. So they should be clean, so that the bloom on the outside is still intact and there won't be any bacteria to get inside the eggs. So typically I might collect eggs over a 2 to 3 day period, but just bring them inside and keep them at room temperature. And I'll take the cleanest ones. Also, I can pick and choose which eggs if I know which breeds I might be looking for. Like my Marans have a dark chocolate brown egg, or my Americanas have pretty blue eggs. So I can kind of tell, but a lot of them I can't because they're just brown eggs. So you can collect your eggs and make a clutch, and hopefully that will induce broodiness. Also, I have seen other people get a couple of day-old chicks, and that will just induce broodiness. If you're not looking to have a hen incubate them, typically, especially a one who is susceptible to be broody like Broody, she'll just accept them no matter what. So in that case, when I am introducing new baby chicks to a hen, I am watching so closely because they don't always accept the chicks. Light pecking might be okay, like Broody when the chicks were first hatching. It was very sweet because one was born, I think, overnight, and then the second was born the next morning, and then the third was born in the afternoon. And so I came out into the garage where this brooder is, and I heard her clucking like a mother hen. She was going bark, 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 like she's talking to her babies. I said, oh my goodness, there's babies in there, and I got so excited. And when I looked in there, the first had already been born, and that tiny little baby poked its head out when it heard me and started to try to walk out from underneath Broody. And Broody gave her a little peck and nudged for her to come back under her feathers. And so just a light peck kind of redirecting her. Anything more than that, I would be extremely concerned because they're so tiny and they're so easily hurt. So if that's the case, then I do think that it would be best to have a brooder set up already just in case the mother doesn't accept it. But again, in my experience, Broody has always accepted new chicks. This is just her first time hatching her own, which is so exciting. I'm so happy for her and happy for me that we get free chicks. So the last thing that I wanted to address are different breeds that tend to go broody. And I already mentioned that Broody is a buff Orpington, and Orpingtons are very commonly broody. And I have two buff Orpingtons. One goes broody sometimes, like I mentioned earlier. I had a second chicken go broody right after Broody did, but it only lasted 2 days. She didn't stay on her nest long enough to incubate them. So out of two, I only have one who reliably gets broody, but buff Orpingtons in general do get broody more often. Also silkies, I have never had silkies personally, but I've heard that they go broody quite often as well. The only thing about silkies though, as a breed, they are smaller. Unlike Broody here, she is quite large. So with a larger breed, they can incubate more eggs at one time and keep more chicks warm at one time. Silkies, I'm not sure how many you would be able to keep underneath them. Another breed are Brahmas. I do have two light Brahmas, and they've never gone broody on me though. Broody really is the only chicken who's gone broody on me consistently. But if you are looking for a chicken who goes broody quite often, you can go with the Orpington. You can get a silky or silkies, even though they're smaller. Also, Cochins are another one that do get broody quite often. So you have some to choose from there, but I would say the buff Orpingtons are probably the most reliable and easy to get. It is pretty funny though, because I'm talking about Broody here being broody. My bird right now, who is actually quite broody, is my turkey. My Royal Palm turkey hen has been broody for the last 2 weeks, and I just didn't bring her in here. I already had Broody on a nest, and I didn't have a separate space for her. So she's still broody in the coop, and my daughter, who's 6, and she's the one who collects the eggs now, she uses a little rake to like gently push her off so that she can get the eggs. And yesterday she said, "I'm sorry, Mama, I could not get the eggs. I could not get the turkey away." So they're kind of scary when they get broody. Even though it can be a great help to have a broody chicken, a lot of times you don't want them to be broody. So I hope that this video helped explain what I do with broody hens and give you some ideas how you can break broodiness, or even if you want to induce broodiness, if you want to have them incubate some eggs for you or take care of some newborn chicks. Well, that's it for this video. Thank you so much for watching Little Lady Homestead, and I'll see you in my next video.